if you're trying to win a championship, would you rather do that? Because I don't think I would. I think I'd take Simmons every time.
I would take the picks because I think Simmons is at this point a known quantity. Simmons is fifth in the Sixers in scoring. I don't think there's any path to contention for the next 7 years with this team if you have Ben Simmons on the team. Because once you have Simmons
Okay.
on the team, your salary cap space is pretty much like locked up, until you get rid of John Wall. Like, I think you probably have a better chance of getting a star from those 8 first round picks than you do. Like, I just think Simmons, we already know he can't be the number one player on a championship team. So now it's like you'd rather take the upside of what those picks could be rather than take someone who could be the second best player on a team, which
I
like is fine.
no, no. I okay. Well, okay. Even if I don't know if we know that Simmons can't be the best player on the championship team
I'm telling you
yet.
right now, he can.
I think it's hard to evaluate when he's playing with such a dominant center like Joel Embiid. But even if he can't, even if he's a 2 or 3, I think you hope that one of the picks that you get gives you a Ben Simmons. Like I don't understand all this slander about Ben Simmons. I get that he's whatever, he doesn't score, but he, like I said, he's a top 15 NBA player. Do we think any like he's a top 15 NBA player, top 5 defensive player? Like there just literally isn't that many better players than him in the NBA. I think that if your only goal is to win, like cap space, like they could move on from, they have expirings in PJ Tucker. They could move on from Eric Gordon. He's an asset that can get moved. Like I think that if you really care about winning, you'd get Simmons. Like you're hoping one of the picks that you took will become Simmons. There's a very real chance. We've seen this happen over and over again, where the team trades for the picks, and they all end up not working out. Like last year, where a couple years ago when the Celtics had the Grizzlies pick, and I was like, oh, it's top 5 pick. The Grizzlies are gonna be awful. They're gonna be awful, and then it becomes like the 14th pick, and then you miss out on Tyler Hero, and then you draft into Aaron Nesmith at 14, and then you're like looking at the Kings pick, and you're like, oh, that didn't work out the way we thought it would. Like that's awful, and you're just kind of sitting there on these assets that you don't know what they're gonna become. And even if you have the first pick, like think about Markelle Fultz. They had Jason Tatum and they still drafted Fultz. It is so hard in the draft. Why not go for the known quantity, who was a really, really, really good NBA player?
I know what you're saying. So Ben Simmons, how old is Ben Simmons?
I think he's 24. Like I think that this proves that the Rockets don't want to win right now, and they don't want to
24?
win. Like,
Well, because I think when you get Simmons, right? So if he's 24 now, then you have 5 to 6 years where like he's in his prime. At that point, when you have Simmons, you're just not winning a championship with just Simmons. So you need another asset, right?
but
You
they
need a
could go get
scorer. You
one.
need something else. There's no real path to contention with Simmons in the West without another star player, without another top 10, top 15 player. You can't. Like, you just can't get that. It's very hard for the Rockets to get that within the next 5 to 6 years
You
without any
think?
first round picks like that. Yeah. How are they going to get another top 15 NBA player with Simmons? And you
I
need a
think
player
that
who's better than Simmons, too, most likely, because Simmons doesn't really, he's not looking to shoot. Like watching Simmons this season, there are so many times where he doesn't even make himself a threat, and it drives me crazy. It's the same thing that Lonzo Ball does, where he will catch the ball and not like close to and not even look at the rim, not even pretend like he's going to shoot, not even drive it and make
okay,
himself
yeah,
a threat.
but
And that is like if he's going to be the best player on my team, I need him to be more of a scoring threat than deferring all these shots to Mike Scott.
I
I
think like
need him to be
scoring is the
scoring more.
one thing they don't like. Scoring is
It's pretty
very
important. It's a
no, but you
pretty
can
important
find
thing.
scoring. You can find scoring all over the NBA. Like, what do we say about players like Zach LaVine, or like all they can do is score? Like Simmons does literally everything else. If you took Simmons, you would have Simmons and Christian Wood. They're both pretty young and they're both really good players. Wood loves to score, right? Let's say you can't move off Wall because his contract's atrocious. He expires in 2 years. You would still have Simmons and Wood under contract and the cap space from John Wall, right? Like if you're so worried about like if you want to win and you're like Simmons can't bring me to a championship this year. Well, in 2 years, you don't know who you'll be able to sign. And even like next year, you would be able to get someone like Oladipo still in free agency, right? Like,
Yeah, that's not like what player that could be available could be like a move the needle player. If you got Bradley Beal, that's a really good team. If you have Simmons and Bradley Beal and Christian Wood, that's not a championship team. So like even if you
That's a
go through the
contending
top,
team.
it's a contending team. But in the West, that's not. Is that a top 4 team? Like
Okay, but for the
maybe.
next 5 years, we have no idea what's going to happen in the next 5 years. Like you don't know who's going to become available and
I
stuff
mean, if
like
you
that.
just go down the list, there's not that many players that could be available. Like
But we
realistically,
know in the NBA this happens. Harden had 2 years left on his deal when he became available. Like we know this is like that there's possibilities here. Like I just feel like they just don't want to win. Like that's what it comes down to. The Rockets don't care about winning as much as they do about their financial issues, or at least they care about their financial issues a lot more than their chances at winning. Because even though Ben Simmons might not lead you to a championship, there's no way that you could convince me that those 8 first round picks would give them more success over the next 5 or 6 years than just having Ben Simmons. Like, that
okay.
just doesn't make any sense.
Let's go through the list. Let's go through the top 20 NBA players right now, and let's see like who could you put on that team with Simmons reasonably in the next 5 years that could actually make you a contender.
Okay,
I just pulled up this list from NBC Sports.
Okay.
Zion's not leaving the Pelicans. Chris Middleton, that doesn't move the needle for you championship wise. Bradley Beal, not too bad. Rudy Gobert, not going to win you a championship. Paul George, not going to win you a championship. Westbrook, no. Tatum is most likely not leaving the Celtics. Karl Anthony Towns, maybe, probably not winning you a championship.
Karl Anthony Towns would make them a championship team. That would make them a championship team. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Jimmy Butler, no. Siakam, definitely not.
No. We're out of Siakam.
Lillard, like, I guess.
Yes.
Lillard
would make them a championship team.
Doncic is not leaving. Embiid, I guess, but we already saw that. Yeah, so no. Yeah. Jokic is not leaving. AD is not leaving.
But this is my whole point.
LeBron's not leaving. Kawhi, I guess Kawhi maybe, but Kawhi is kind of past the point in his career. I don't think there's a path for a championship team with Simmons, and then you don't really have that many assets after that. I think I would take the uncertainty of, hey, maybe these 8 first-round picks, maybe 2 of them are in the top 3. And I would take that over the known quantity of Simmons when Simmons is a great NBA player.
Okay, but you have
to build a specific team around him for you to have a chance to win a championship. And it's just like, I'd rather have a blank slate than be trying to constantly fit a team around Simmons when we don't really know if he can win a championship.
Okay, but we also don't know what these picks are going to be. Like when you trade for the picks, you're basically admitting to your fan base, we're going to be bad for the next 6 years. And they're just going to be okay with that. Like that just really sucks, I think. And I think if you care about contending, like there's something to be said about being a contending team. There has to be something to be said about that. Like making the playoffs matters, and being like a top 3 seed, like being the Denver Nuggets matters, right? Like they're a good team. Will they win a championship? Probably not. Like as currently constructed, no. Like Harden never won a championship with the Rockets, but people still say he had a successful 8-year run. Like he made the conference finals, I think like once or twice, but people still treat it like it was a great run because there's value to being a good franchise, right? Like we saw Kawhi went to the Clippers because they were a good franchise. The KD and Kyrie chose the Nets over the Knicks because they made the playoffs. Like that shouldn't matter. And we don't know like what the free agents are going to be in the next 5 or 6 years, what the storyline is going to be. If 2 years ago I told you that Harden, KD, and Kyrie would all be on the same team, you would not believe that. So we have no idea who's going to become available. I think that if you cared about winning and making a good franchise, you would trade for Simmons.